Canning, Acting City Engineer, recommending the finalization and acceptance of deed of donation of open spaces in Cockville subdivision in Barangay San Felipe.
Land Use Committee on Land Use.
Land use. The letter dated August 20, 2020 from Mr. Wilfredo Prillas, City Planning and Development Officer, submitting for consideration the revised investment program containing adjustments in response to previous instructions and concerns.
Yes, we were given a copy of the proposed 2021 annual investment program. Naka-receive the boss? Okay, Honorable Del Castillo.
That communication from the City Planning and Development Office. Those are the answers of
The CPDO.
the CPDO on our
Concerns.
comments and suggestion the last time that this matter was
Yes.
deliberated upon in this August body. As to, on the part of this representation, I go over the details, and I'm already satisfied with the action taken by the City Planning and Development Office. As far as my concern, during that time, it was already positively responded, Madam Chair. I don't know with the other members of the
Also with the request of the Honorable Marcia Arroyo and Honorable
as far as
Del
this
Rosario.
representation,
But
it's
as to
already
you,
okay
yes,
for me.
it was already included
Yes,
in the
yes.
revised AIP. How about the concerns raised by the Honorable Marcia Arroyo and Honorable Del Rosario? Was it already addressed? And then Honorable Rosales, and I think Honorable Valdemoro has also concerns.
Madam Chair, before we take action, could you give us a time to review the submitted document by the CPDO?
Okay, so we defer this. Deferred next session. Okay, Honorable, and them to present. We will invite Mr. Prillas on the next session. Okay, Honorable Rosales.
Madam Chair, I am also satisfied already with the submitted amended AIP for 2021 by the City Planning and Development Officer. However, just last week, the NCPC has commenced with public presentations as mandated by the People's Budget Ordinance. I understand that these presentations subject the said AIP for further changes in case there are recommendations from other stakeholders. And the public presentations are yet to be completed on September 4, next month. Harani naman po, Madam Chair. I think that if we will be approving this prior to the completion of the said public presentations, it will render nugatory the very purpose for which the People's Budget Ordinance institutionalized the mandated public presentations.
So you're proposing that we wait for the NCPC's presentation?
Well, as Chair of the People Empowerment, if we approve this now, I think this is very dispiriting on the part of the NCPC because they have also made efforts to ensure that they live up to the mandate of the People's Budget Ordinance.
So, Honorable Marcia, thank you, Honorable Rosales.
My understanding, Madam Chair, is that this is being presented for our consideration also side by side with the process that's also going on
Undertaken.
in implementation of our participatory trust in governance. So I think it's not being presented for approval yet. It's being presented so that we can already also see it. Para kasabay din kita kang consultation process, nahihiling ka din. But I don't think the CPDO should recommend should present this for purposes of approval, because one of the requirements for CPDO to present it for approval is after the consultations mandated under the people's budget. Thank you, Madam.
So we will invite Mr. Prilles for the presentation of the AIP. Okay. Next item. Okay, Honorable Valdemoro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, before we proceed to the next item, may I seek reconsideration to the order of business by including item number 17 of the unfinished business, the letter from the City Planning and Development Office pertaining to the status of City Comprehensive Land Use Plan, and also item number 18 of the unfinished business, letter from Enjoy Realty and Development Corporation pertaining to the joint venture agreement between the Enjoy Realty and Development Corporation and the City Government of Naga. I so move, Madam Chair.
Okay, any second? Approved. Next item.
The report of the Committee on Education.
Committee on Education, Honorable Gregorio Abonal.
Madam Chair, kindly acknowledge the report of the Committee on Education of its meeting last August 19.
Report is acknowledged.
There were two items, Madam Chair, if I may proceed. Item number 1 was the letter dated January 8, 2020 of Mr. Emiterio de la Cruz, heir of Canuto de la Cruz, expressing his intent to donate a portion of his property intended for an educator center at Zone 2, Canol 2 Village, Concepcion, Pequeña, Naga City. For the disposition, Madam Chair, the committee resolved two things. One, to ask Ms. Elsie Romano to coordinate with the Barangay Chair of Concepcion Pequeña in providing the appropriate data required by Ordinance number 2015-016 and to submit these within 30 days hence. And number 2, for the city mayor to clarify with the prospective donor seller of the nature and details of the transaction. So moved, Madam Chair.
Any second? Okay.
Second item is the proposed ordinance authored by Honorable Celito del Rosario entitled an ordinance mandating the establishment of the community learning hub for every barangay in Naga City to assist the Department of Education in cascading the new normal approach, providing guidelines and mechanics for its implementation, and for other purposes. If I may proceed to the disposition, Madam Chair.
Okay, proceed.
The proponent was tasked to revise the proposed ordinance and to incorporate all the suggestions for final disposition. So move, Madam Chair.
Any second?
I understand that Councilor Del Rosario has done what he was asked to do and that he's submitting these to the committee for another round of hearing. That's the end of the report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Abonal. Next item.
The letter dated August 17, 2020, forwarding the letter dated August 4 from the PNA Officer 2020 with note of the City Mayor I am returning the subject letter for our August 18, 2020 discussion.
Referred to city properties.
City Properties. The letter dated August 20, 2020 from the City Treasurer submitting the requested data on rentals for city spaces.
Pending with the Committee on Ways and Means.
The ulat ng committee ng mga bata.
Ano, kagalang-galang na Consyal Elmer Baltimoro.
Ginang na Pangulo, maaari po bang kilalanin ang ulat ng committee ng mga bata?
Aking kinikilala ang sige na daan.
May 5 po kaming paksang tinalakay. Ang unang paksa, unang pag-endorso ni Ginoong Francisco Mendoza, nagsisilbing administrador ng lungsod, ang Memorandum Circular bilang 20,013 na may petsang ika-6 ng Pebrero mula sa Kagawaran ng Interior at Pamahalaang Lokal na nagsasaad ng adopsyon ng proklamasyon bilang 417 sa pamamagitan ng pagpasa ng ordinansa na magsasaad ng taunang selebrasyon ng ligtas na paggamit ng internet para sa mga bata sa Pilipinas. Maaari po bang dumiretso na sa disposisyon?
Tumuloy. Pagpatuloy mo.
Kolektibong sumang-ayon ang mga miyembro ng komite sa Memorandum Circular mula sa Kagawaran ng Interior at Pamahalaang Lokal at nilutas ng komite na irekomenda sa Sangguniang Panglungsod ang pagsasabatas ng taunang selebrasyon ng ligtas na paggamit ng internet para sa mga bata sa Pilipinas sa lungsod ng Naga. Akin pong minumungkay.
Sino ang pumapangalawa? Ano?
Pangalawang paksa, liham na may petsang ika-19 ng Disyembre 2019 mula kay Padre Noel Valderas, Salt, Our Lady of the Most Holy Trinity College Seminary, na humihiling ng konsiderasyon at pagresponde sa isyu ng caroling ng mga bata sa lansangan. Maaari na po bang dumiretso sa disposisyon?
Magpatuloy.
Sa disposisyon, kolektibong sumang-ayon ang mga miyembro ng komite na ang kahilingan ay karapat-dapat na aksyonan at nilutas ng komite na irekomenda sa Sangguniang Panglungsod ang pagsasabatas ng ordinansa na ipagbabawal ang pangangaroling hindi lamang sa mga bata, kundi pati sa iba pang sektor na humingi ng anumang pinansyal na asistensya sa mga lansangan tuwing panahon ng Kapaskuhan. Akin pong minumungkahi.
Sinong pumapangalawa?
Ikatlong paksa, ordinansang pambarangay bilang 2019 bilang 3 ng Barangay Lerma, lungsod ng Naga na may titulong Ordinansang nag-aakda ng kodigo para sa mga bata ng Barangay Lerma, pagbigay tungkulin, paglaan ng pondo at ibang layunin. Para po sa disposisyon, nilutas ng komite na ibinbin ang usapin at inirekomenda sa Sangguniang Panglungsod na ibalik sa Konseho ng Barangay Lerma para sa pag-amyenda at pagripaso nito at isama ang mga komento at suhestyon ng komite. Akin pong minumungkahi.
Mga pangalawa?
Pang-apat na paksa, ordinansang pambarangay bilang 2018 bilang 3 ng Barangay Concepcion Grande, lungsod ng Naga na may titulong Ordinansang nag-aakda ng kodigo para sa mga bata ng Barangay Concepcion Grande, pagbigay tungkulin, paglaan ng pondo at iba pang layunin. Para po sa disposisyon, nilutas ng komite na ibinbin ang usapin at inirekomenda sa Sangguniang Panglungsod na ibalik sa Konseho ng Barangay Concepcion Grande para sa pag-amyenda at paglipaso nito at isama ang mga komento at suggestion ng committee. akin pong minumungkahi.
Pangalawa,
Nilutas din ng committee at inirekomenda sa Sangguniang Panglungsod na hilingin sa lokal na konseyo ng lungsod ng Naga patungkol sa mga bata na magsagawa ng seminar para sa pagbalangkas ng kodigo patungkol sa mga bata. Akin pong minumungkahi.
pangalawa,
Panghuling paksa, ordinansang pambarangay bilang 2019 bilang isa ng Barangay Carolina, Lungsod ng Naga na may titulong Ordinansang Nag-aakda ng Kodigo para sa mga bata ng Barangay Carolina, Lungsod ng Naga. Sa disposisyon, nilutas ng komite na ibinbin ang usapin at inirekomenda sa Sangguniang Panglungsod na ibalik sa Konseyo ng Barangay Carolina para sa pag-amenda at paglipaso nito at isama ang mga komento at suhestyon ng komite. Akin pong minumungkahi.
pangalawa.
Maraming salamat po, Tagapangulo.
Maraming salamat, kagalang-galang na Konsyal Elmer Baldemoro. Next item.
The proposed ordinance authorizing the grant and payment of traffic enforcement incentives to all volunteer traffic groups, providing guidelines for its implementation, creating a trust fund to cover incentives, and for other purposes.
Honorable Del Rosario, Del Rosario.
Madam Chair, this is being submitted on third and final reading, but I would like to run through with the provisions that were incorporated based on our discussions. Ma'am Tin, Section 4, please proceed to Section 4.
Section 14.
Section 4. In Section 4, Madam Chair, as underlined, the rate of incentives will be based upon the PSO monthly assessment of their collective performance. Hence, for this purpose, the PSO is required to come up with the guidelines of the incentive scheme, subject to the approval of the City Mayor within 30 days from the approval of this ordinance. In number 1, Section 5, yung po is a reckoning period for not less than 2 years reckoned from the time the passage of this ordinance. The resident of Naga, in Section 7, ikaw po may mga kaibahan kita na may concerns panigdi. So this covers yung only apprehension conducted solely by traffic volunteer to be considered. Apprehensions done in tandem with or in support of another enforcer, such as wheel clamping and towing, are not covered by the grant of incentives. And the individual accomplishments shall be collated and summarized as basis for grant of group incentives under Section 4 hereof. In Section 12, second to the last paragraph, Madam Chair. For this purpose, the Office of the City Legal Officer shall receive, hear, and decide complaints against erring traffic volunteer traffic enforcer within 30 days upon receipt thereof. Decisions shall be appealable within 7 days upon issuance to the Office of the City Mayor, whose decision shall be final and executory. And the PSO has the power to recommend to the Office of the City Mayor and furnish the Office of the Sangguniang Panlungsod for the revocation of accreditation of a traffic volunteer group once it is established that majority of its members or that a number is deemed to imperil public perception of the group's performance will necessitate said revocation. And Section 14, Madam Chair, the miscellaneous provisions, second sentence, the deployment of volunteers must be closely supervised and monitored by the PSO. And the last paragraph, for purposes of meeting the requirements set under Section 5 hereof, the PSO shall endeavor to assist the volunteer traffic groups in securing certification from the NCPC, their previous performances and active involvements in various events, such as Peña Francia Fiesta, Undas, school opening, and other special events, not to mention deployment during regular days, must be highly considered to merit consideration. So these are all the salient points of this representation gathered during the discussion last session, Madam Chair. So on third and final reading, Madam Chair, I move that we pass the ordinance authorizing the grant and payment of traffic enforcement incentives to all volunteer traffic groups, providing guidelines for its implementation, creating a trust fund to cover the incentives, and for other purposes. I so move, Madam Chair.
Any second? Before the approval, honorable comment from the members. Honorable Max Secretary. Incentives. Yeah, section 9. Section 4.
And the ordinance gives the city mayor authority to recommend, but it will be covered by a separate ordinance again. So para siguro dahil na mabalik giraray, we should already put it there. Yes.
Okay, Honorable Del Rosario. Are you amenable to the proposition of Honorable Arroyo?
Yes, Madam Chair. Before the end of the session, I'll submit the yung range of the incentives to be given to those performing well and those para may range siya. Para,
And
I'll
an
submit that.
appropriation should be included.
Yeah. It is included in the trust fund that will be established,
Sa
Madam Chair,
trust fund.
based on the title of the
Okay.
sa rates na lang. Okay. Sige. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, thank you, Honorable
Salamat
Del
po,
Rosario.
salamat po.
Any other comments? Can we approve it now or we approve already but you will submit the rates? Honorable Arroyo.
The final rate of the incentives to be given, or ilalaagda na siya dyan. In which case, we cannot approve it yet if it will be included there.
This is
Otherwise, mayong authority ang pag-grant ng incentive
Yes, yes.
kung guraan siya.
I understand that. I truly believe so, Madam Chair. I'm willing to rewrite the second paragraph of Section 4 to state therein the rates of the incentives to be given to. If we have time, Madam Chair, I can submit.
So are we going to approve it now?
No,
or
Madam
later?
Chair, siguro i-defer mo ng
Okay,
for
defer
the last part
temporarily.
of the session.
Next, defer temporarily. Next item.
The letter dated August 11, 2020 from the Naga City People's Council submitting the amended plan and budget for the year 2020.
People empowerment? Appropriation? Are they? Nag-submit lang sinda kang mga plans ninda. I think they're just submitting their plan of action. Si revise. Pa kung iyo. Did somebody ask for from the NCPC their revised plan? Or is this for our information only? The Committee on People Empowerment?
Just refer, Madam Chair, to the Committee on Appropriations.
Appropriation.
This, in effect, realigns their submitted financial plan for 2020.
Okay.
So,
So refer this to the Committee on Appropriation. Next.
The letter dated August 20, 2020 from the City Planning and Development Officer submitting the proposed supplemental AIP consisting 3 parts. COVID-19 Action Plan Package, the Bayanihan Grant for cities and municipalities, and other essential expenditures of the city government.
Can we treat this on the next, together with the other AIP? The presentation of Mr. We'll discuss it with the presentation of Mr. Willie Prillas next session? Or are we going to refer this to a committee? And then next session, together with the other matters to be discussed by Mr. Prillas. So this will be discussed during the next regular session. Next item.
The letter dated August 20, 2020 from Attorney Gerardo Borja, Counsel of Spouses Law, submitting copy of the special power of attorney, and letter dated August 17, 2020, executed by spouses Jacqueline Lee Law and Alvin T. Law.
Committee on Housing, pending with the Committee on Housing. Next
The
item.
letter dated August 18, 2020 from Mr. Precioso Cornejo, Vice President, Naga City Pilgrims Electric Bicycles Operators and Drivers Association.
Committee on Transport. Honorable Del Rosario.
Madam Chair, this is to serve notice sa mga pag-iriba ko, Madam Chair, sa transport na may committee hearing kami sa Thursday, 8:30 ning aga. Kasi sa aga, Madam Chair, sisiguraduhon mi na mag-attend duman sa Santa Cruz High School blessing, inauguration, and turnover. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Del Rosario.
Next item.
Next item.
The letter dated August 20, 2020 from Ms. Evangeline Alinday, Project Coordinator, Makawili JC Foundation Incorporated.
Refer to the Committee on
People Empowerment.
People
Madam Chair.
Empowerment.
I have just found out that ever since the request for accreditation of Makawili in 2017, we have been giving reference to the wrong ordinance. Just last night, I have found out that the applicable ordinance to the request of Makawili for accreditation is not City Ordinance 1995-092 or the People Empowerment Ordinance, but City Ordinance 2009-085, which is the guidelines governing the qualifications and procedures for accreditation of NGOs as originators or community mobilizers of localized community mortgage program. In the said ordinance, the resolution of accreditation must emanate not from the Sangguniang Panglungsod, but the Naga City Urban Development and Housing Board. I'm just quite baffled that the head of the HSDO reiterated in a letter which he submitted here that the resolution of accreditation must emanate from the Sangguniang Panglungsod. Well, in fact, in the said ordinance, the UPAW there, now I think it's the HSDO, is the secretariat who is mandated to take action to the request for accreditation of CMP mobilizers in the city. Thus, Madam Chair, as based on the said ordinance, there is no action to take in the from the Sangguniang Panglungsod. So we must refer this matter to the HSDO for appropriate action.
HSDO, Naga City Urban Naga City Urban Housing and Settlement ata. Di ba? Naga City. Honorable Miles Secretario.
particular ordinance refers specifically to community mortgage originators.
Community mortgage.
It's different from community mobilizers. Because before, there is this program called Localized Community Mortgage Program, or LCMP. Under that particular program of the national government, the local governments are actually the ones implementing the program in partnership with the national government. But to do that, there are entities that can act as originators. They are the mortgage originators. So for them to be mortgage originators, I believe Honorable Sir, you crafted this ordinance. I was not in the Sanggunian at that time. Because when I left in 2007, the LCMP was just starting. We have just expressed our intent to participate in the LCMP, which is a program of the national government, but we needed this ordinance as guide for NGOs who would want to act as originators. So this is not applicable to the community organizers, although I believe we should pass an ordinance similar to this, because the qualifications, Madam Chair, for us to accredit community mobilizers are special qualifications. They are not our existing ordinance for accrediting NGOs and POs will not suffice, because the role of community mobilizers is very specific in the implementation of the housing program. So I believe another ordinance must guide our accreditation of community mobilizers.
The Honorable Rosales.
Madam Chair, I don't think there is any much difference with originators and community mobilizers. In a flylet which I have downloaded from the Socialized Housing Finance Corporation site, they have indicated that in the implementation of the localized community mortgage program, the Sanggunian must pass an ordinance which will provide the guidelines for the accreditation of community mobilizers. So I think this is the ordinance to that effect. That is why at the very start, when I had this matter in the People Empowerment Committee, I was very confused why the said foundation is requesting for accreditation as in membership to the city's local special bodies. Well, in fact, if you look at really their intention, it's not that, but to be accredited as a community mobilizer of the city. So I think the more applicable ordinance here is not 1995-092, but this ordinance here, 2009-085, which should be taken action by the Housing Board.
So, this matter will be Honorable Arroyo.
Sanggunian does not accredit community mobilizers. We are accrediting NGOs and POs, as NGOs and POs in general. But they are seeking accreditation as community mobilizers. We are not the one accrediting. It should be the SHAPC, the Social Housing Finance Corporation. What they actually want is to be accredited as organizations in the city. But if they are seeking accreditation as mobilizers, we don't have that. We don't have the guidelines for as community mobilizers. Kasi very specific, that the LCMP is a very specific program. But before we can participate as local government, the NGO partner should be accredited as community mortgage originators. So we have to clarify, are they seeking accreditation just as an ordinary organization, or so that they can undertake as community mobilizers in the social housing programs of the city or of the national government? We don't do that. But if we desire, we should have, Madam Chair, but for purposes of participating in our program. Kasi kung ang objective is so that they can participate as community mobilizers of the national government projects, then the accreditation should be with the national government, which it is. The only reason why we had to pass this ordinance was because we wanted to participate in the LCMP, which is a national government program. So kung ma-participate kita as LCMP, in the LCMP program, we should have an accreditation of non-government partners. That's what happened before. But if the Honorable Rosales is confused, then we can request information from the HSDO. Kasi baka mas maniwala si the Honorable Rosales from the HSDO. But that's as far as I know, Madam Chair, because when my term ended in 2007, we have not started participating in LCMP. We have just expressed our intent to participate in the LCMP of the national government.
So we refer this to HSDO. So we seek comment from the Honorable Rosales.
Just one last thing, Madam Chair. It was already clarified in the committee level that the intention of Makawili Foundation is to seek accreditation as community mobilizer and not to participate in the local special body, because they are a national organization which engages itself in the mobilization of communities for participation under the community mortgage program. We know that they have existing community associations here which they are assisting to participate in the community mortgage program. So I think, yes, I agree with the Honorable Arroyo that there are matters which need to be clarified with the HSDO, with the said foundation, and perhaps with the Socialized Housing Finance Corporation.
So this matter will be referred to HSDO for its comment and clarification. Okay, Honorable Miles Arroyo.
The disposition previously by the Committee on People Empowerment. Have we already sent that clarificatory letter to the SHOPC? Because in the disposition we requested that a letter be sent to the SHOPC asking why the ICEPA project was taken out, meaning paid by the national government, without development permit being approved by the city, because that's one of the issues raised in that committee hearing. And also, second question, why is it that that particular organization is not included? Remember, Madam Chair, that the SHOPC sent a letter to us informing us of the community mobilizers that are accredited with them in Bicol region. So they informed us, and Makawili is not one of them. So we were asking clarificatory question. We're seeking clarification why Makapili is undertaking that particular, Makawili is undertaking a community mobilizing activity here, but they are not included in those accredited by SHOPC. So we wanted clarification. Have we sent that letter already?
May we ask the Secretary, have you sent letter to...
We will check our records, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Madam.
So if not, can you make the necessary action with regards to the letter to be sent to SHOPC? Okay. Honorable Rosales?
Madam Chair, as to the concern of the Committee on People Empowerment, I think it should be confined with the accreditation of the requesting party and no longer with housing matters, Madam Chair.
Okay, so this matter is deferred, but referred to HSDO, yes. Send a letter to HSDO for clarificatory action. Next item.
The letter dated August 24, 2020, of the Honorable City Mayor,
Barangay Mabulo.
with respect to the proposed multipurpose hall and barangay hall of Barangay Mabulo.
Mabolo. Resolution approving the approving the site development plan. What's the request? Yung Mayaman development plan. Ayan, igwa. Ayan, igwa. The site development plan. Pagday ko na bolo. Ayun dyan. Committee on City Properties. Next item.
The report to the Committee on Public Utilities.
Committee on Public Utilities, where's Honorable Del Rosario? Okay, defer temporarily.
The letter dated August 24, 2020 from Mr. Wilfredo Villes with respect to the revised comprehensive land use plan of the city.
Land Use Committee on Land Use.
Land use.
Next item.
The letter dated August 17, 2020 from Enjoy Realty and Development Corporation with respect to the joint venture agreement with the city government.
Okay, return back to the Committee on Housing. Next.
New business. The letter dated June 25, 2020 of Reverend Monsignor Rodel Cao, Rector, Our Lady of Peña Francia Basilica.
Committee on Culture and the Arts.
The endorsement dated August 19 from the Office of the City Mayor endorsing the contract of affiliation between the Naga City
Committee
Hospital
on Education and Health.
UNC. The letter dated August 17 from Honorable City Mayor requesting authority to negotiate with Limhoco family concerning
Committee
their
on City Properties. Next item. Can we go back to item number, the Honorable Mayor is around. Honorable Del Rosario, Committee on Public Utilities report. Item number 16.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I request acknowledgement of the Committee on Public
Your
Utilities
report is acknowledged.
The meeting was held 14 August 2020. There were several items discussed. First, Madam Chair, is the letter dated July 11, 2020 of Mr. Roderick Reporsado, Terminal Manager, Bicol Central Station, submitting recommendation measures on the current sufferings of their tenants. As to the disposition, Madam Chair, we are actually referring this to the proper committee because the concerns aired by the terminal manager concerns the rental of some spaces in the Bicol Central Station. So we are referring this letter of Mr. Reporsado to the appropriate committee of the Sangguniang Palansod. I so move, Madam
What
Chair.
committee, sir?
Committee on Ways and Means.
Committee on Ways and Means.
I think I understand that they are consolidating all yung mga sa rentas. Number 2, Madam Chair. Letter dated July 30, addressed to Honorable Joselito Del Rosario, Mr. John Joel Haudal, Acquisition Specialist, Huawei Technology Philippines, proposing to acquire portion of my property in Barangay Pacol, DCT, as possible lease area for the construction and installation of telecommunication facilities. We deferred consideration of this item, Madam Chair, in view of the absence of the proponent.
So, deferred.
Number 3, letter dated August 3 of Ms. Ariane May T. Aurios,
Approved na ba yan?
Comtrend Construction Corporation, DITO Telecommunity, requesting for the conduct of public hearing relative to their application for approval of their construction, installation, and operation of telco facilities project within the jurisdiction of Tinago, Naga City. We also treated Barangay Tinago Resolution 54-20, opposing said construction. As to the disposition, the committee decided to recommend to Sangguniang Palansod to wait for the submission of the the requirements needed for the that will be required by the committee to be submitted for us to pursue with the public hearing. By the way, Madam Chair, we are also in receipt of yung joint memorandum circular given to us by Councilor Albius regarding telcos. And we also would reconcile this with the Bayanihan to Heal as 1, 2, version 2, recently passed by the BICAM, which shortens the time from the time of submission of documents and the approval. Big limit na maray duman and very limited na duman si power of the LGU. So we will be consolidating this, Madam Chair, for our discussion later. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Question, kay Honorable Mayor Secretary.
Of particularly of the barangay council.
May duwa na pong public hearing na ginibo duman ang Barangay Council. Ang tower po kaya ibubugtak sa itong garo 8-story building o 7-story building. Ang opposition ninda is more on radiation. Baka hindi ko po sa radiation. Because ang tower, Madam Chair, ang tower is I think just 2 or 3 meters. Dahil manggayos halang kaon na tower. Arog lang po kayo sa Villa Caceres. So probably baka dahil lang gayo naintindihan kasi mga residents duman. So may interim opposition sinda duman sa project nito.
Oo. I think very important, Madam Chair, na specific ang reasons for the opposition so that specific din ang simbag to assuage any fear on the part of the residents who are opposing. Kung ang point, Madam Chair, is baka dailang naintindihan. So therefore, it is our duty to really have it explained properly. So dapat medyo detalye rin ang reason for the opposition.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Miles. Madam Chair, during the committee hearing, naghalat kay kami kan si preliminary documents na isubmit kan si proponent. Kaya lang we have yet to receive it. So, although naintindihan mi si concern ninda na igwaning mga initially yung mga nag-oppose duman. Pero kami po kaya sa Committee on Public Utilities with Councilor Joe and Councilor Albius, we are bent on proceeding sa hearing at ang ari pong ma-dispose mi na, considering may mga bagong joint circulars na pig-issue ngunyan. So, may po kaya kami nakakaputan na initial document, so we cannot really proceed. So, once na na-receive na po ito, we will proceed with the public hearing and ipapaintindi mi po naman sa mga concerned parties ang explanation ipapaabot po sa inyo by the proper authorities. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning.
Thank you, Honorable Del Rosario. Next item.
Item number 4 of the new business, the endorsement dated August 19 from the Tri-Mobile Task Force
By
endorsing the
Committee on
application.
Transport.
The letter dated August 18 of Mr. Eduardo Costudio, the fourth President Dugcal Suha Tri-Mobile Operators and Drivers Association, appealing to use route from their point of origin to Tiburak.
Committee on Transport.
The undated letter of the Honorable Ceci Ranyola submitting the list of personnel requirement for the establishment of the local water testing and assessment office.
Laws and Ordinances. Committee on Appropriation. There's an appropriation.
The letter dated August 24, 2020 from Dr. Raimundo Ebarientos. Seeking assistance
Retention, entrance, and way.
on the issue
Request.
entrance and way to
Entrance.
Carolina, Naga City.
Ano yan?
Ano yun? Right
Private
of way.
property.
Right of way issue, ma'am?
Pigsirahan. Sa housing ini? Committee on Housing?
Committee on Housing. Sunod. NCPC.
Next item.
The letter dated August 20, 2020 from the Naga City People's Council submitting resolution number 2020-008 requesting the city through the Honorable City Mayor to provide virtual platform or webinar as an alternative modality of meetings in order to provide inclusive participation of the NCPC in its sector and organization
Refer this to the city mayor.
and legislation.
It was addressed to the city mayor.
Addressed to the City Mayor.
Okay, Honorable Valdemoro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although the request is addressed to the City Mayor, but pertaining to the Sangguniang Panglungsod, could we refer this to the Committee on Rules, since
Rule.
there is a pending matter pertaining to the webinar,
Webinar.
teleconference.
Okay, refer to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next item.
The letter dated August 19, 2020 from OIC General Manager of Costa 2, Ms. Emilita Candia, submitting the application for confirmation and approval of calculations of over or under recoveries in the implementation of automatic cost adjustments and true-up mechanisms for the period 2017-2019.
Ano yan? Public utilities? Anong request?
Public utility.
Public utilities? Kasureco 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item.
Other matters, copy of memo circular number 2020-111.
Honorable Del Castillo.
Before the other matters, Sir, I believe one matter should be taken again, particularly on the proposed ordinance.
Item number.
This proposed ordinance, Madam Chair, adopting the COVID-19 containment project, harnessing barangay volunteer frontline workers. Yeah, correct. I think we temporarily deferred consideration of this, Madam Chair. And in that connection, Madam Chair, I believe the most contentious provision in this ordinance is the setting of the rate. So I believe that we should, for purposes of expediting the passage of this ordinance, we should remove Section 6, because I believe we should discuss this very, very thoroughly, because this might create animosity within the barangay,
Yes.
and so that we could also answer to whoever will ask us what's our basis for setting the rate. So we should study more thoroughly this particular section. But for purposes of harnessing the barangay volunteer workers, I believe we should really pass this legislation without, of course, setting the rate of honoraria for them. We can pass a separate ordinance setting the rate that we will agree on how much is the rate for these volunteer workers. But
So
with time,
except-
Madam Chair, I believe we should
Pass the ordinance.
delete Section 6 of this proposal. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Del Castillo. Honorable Del Rosario.
Yes, Madam Chair. To expedite passage of this ordinance, we delete Section 6 and we focus on the project itself, the containment program of the city government as marshaled by Mayor Nelson Ligason. So on joint and collective motion, Madam Chair, I
Joint
move
and
that we pass the ordinance.
Okay. Comment, Honorable Miles Arroyo. Title of the ordinance. Flash the title, please. grant of honorarium. Honorable Miles?
Madam Chair,
Wait.
could we take a break, Madam Chair?
Okay, we take a break first. Break.